And we are rolling. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome Larry Left to the show. How's it going, Larry?
Hey, yo, good morning. Everything is going great. It's a pleasure to see you early. Long time no see.
Good to see you. Likewise. So let me give a brief introduction, and I'll tell everybody a little bit about, what you do, and then you feel free to add on whatever I leave out. So Larry is a guy I met back probably 2007, 2008, playing music. He played in a bunch of bands, and at that time, I think he was playing in this band called Shay's Rebellion, and they were from Pennsylvania, and we ended up playing a show in Staten Island together. But Larry's played in a bunch of different bands. He's a guitar player, a vocalist, I guess. Well, you sing as well. And he's played in Shay's Rebellion, The Baby Sandwiches, Going Postal, and several others. I'll let you finish up whatever I left off. Oh, also, he has a cool Instagram page called Coffee, Cigarettes, and Depression that you should check out. Which actually, and people seem to like that one. That was a cool idea. You had T-shirts made up and everything, right? Or still do, maybe?
I still do. I got to get some stuff printed up again. I've run out, but my guy that does it for me, he has everything ready to go whenever I give him the word. So it's coming. Baby steps, I'm not in a rush to do anything anymore. As far as my introduction goes, yes, we met about 2007, 2008. Back when I was very involved in punk rock and music and booking shows and playing shows. And at that time, yes, Shay's Rebellion, that was a band based out of East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. I had moved back to New York in 2005. I got in a lot of trouble in Pennsylvania growing up, and I wound up moving back. My father was always in New York, and I continued that band for about 2 years after I moved back to New York. We still gigged and got together. It was a benefit for us because then we started doing more New York-based shows, and obviously me booking. I was already booking, my teenage years in Pennsylvania. From there it broke up, obviously. Nothing good lasts forever. Baby Sandwiches. I played briefly in a band called Grizzly Smith. Strap Hangers I was in for about 3 years. I'm on at least one recorded with them. That's not bad. Hired Gun for Yo Skunk. Silence Equals Death for a hot minute. 2019 started Going Postal. Just as we're about to start gigging, we get hit with a New York City shutdown, what turned into the pandemic. Since that era and that band ended, I kind of walked away from the punk rock scene, and that's where I started doing the Coffee, Cigarettes, and Depression. I did a little stand-up comedy. I do plan on hitting the stage again at some point this year. And, now I'm just, a normal guy, 41 years old. I still love punk rock. Generation Records, official pickup, outgoing mailman for them. I work for the post office now. It's been a fun run. I'm glad people have taken a liking to what I'm doing with comedy-esque, posting, shit garbage online. There is a point behind everything that I post. Even if it's cynical, sarcastic, I'm trying to spread awareness just like everybody else.
It's very similar to if you're hanging outside of Otto's, which is a venue in New York City, at like midnight, and you go out and have a cigarette. That's where you're going to meet the most interesting people and see the weirdest stuff. So that's what your page reminds me of. Your page reminds me of standing outside of Otto's at midnight on like a Friday night and having a cigarette, and then you meet the weird. They just come out of the woodworks, and you'll hear the craziest stories and see the craziest things, and meet the most crazy people.
Part of why I do what I do is to point out that insanity reigns supreme.
Mm-hmm.
and it's everywhere. And
Oh yeah.
it knows no barriers, and everyone's just going along with it. It's quite interesting to watch from a distance.
Oh yeah. What did George Carlin say? So George Carlin said, if you're born in the United States, you got a front row seat to the freak show. No, he said if you're born in America, you have a free ticket to the freak show. And if you're no, he said if you're just born in this world, you got a free ticket to the freak show. And if you're born in America, you get a front row seat. It was something of that nature. Whatever it was, I butchered it, but it was
Tell you,
a great quote. I love that one.
George Carlin. I grew up, my grandparents had me watching it. My parents were into it. When I see people now saying like, "Who is this crazy old man online?" Man, you guys
He was
have
the
no
greatest.
idea. You have no idea. What a great fucking human being George Carlin was. When I worked in Harlem, I remember stumbling upon a part of 123rd Street by Columbia University is like George Carlin Place. I guess he lived there as a child. Little things like that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's why I love New York City. And fucking A, man, this world needs George Carlin.
Oh man, I would have loved if he had been around the past 5 years. I would have loved to hear his commentary on because what I liked about him is that he would let everybody have it, left, right, whatever. He didn't hold back on any political
No.
group.
Could you imagine if he like did a turn and like he sided with all that shit?
Yeah, doubtful. The closest one was Noam Chomsky was cool all the way up until the pandemic because I guess he's old and got scared. That's a lot of these dudes, I think, and a lot of people at the beginning, but they got scared. They got drilled in them. They got so scared that they eventually just went along with it.
You know who I lost a lot of respect for during that time? Neil deGrasse Tyson. I loved him. I just
Same.
think he
Yeah.
should run for president. Him and
I
Bill
thought he used to be
Nye
cool.
as president and vice president. And then
Mhm. No,
I see who he worked for.
they went out right. They went along with everything because I don't know if it's just about money, but a lot of this. I don't think it is just about money. It's about if you just don't go along with them on anything, and it can be any topic, you're instantly like outcasted. You're ostracized. It's like you have to obey all of our stipulations and go along with every single thing that we say. And if you don't, you are a far right extremist Nazi. That's basically. I'm generalizing a little bit, but that's basically what it's come down to. And they're just running more and more people away from them.
I am one to say, and I'll work backwards from this, I guess. That's why you lost. And it's because of that behavior. And, it's just in the idea of the term Nazi, a lot of people relate it just strictly to Nazi Germany and an attack on Jewish people. And I've always said Nazism is a behavior. It is a very us against them mentality. And basically anybody who differs is a problem and must be eliminated. Therefore, let's just say, if we're going down the checklist and everything's good until, let's say, I don't know, maybe you don't support COVID vaccines or maybe you don't support trans women or men. And all of a sudden, you are now labeled a Nazi. And if you listen and really pay attention to everyone calling this out, and as they attack everyone, you start to see and realize, like, who's behaving like the Nazi around here? You can't think anything outside the box if it's, something in your guys' current bandwagon agenda, the flavor of the week, we'll say. That's the other thing. They get strung along for a fucking ride. Like, I don't think they realize they're going along just with everything.
It's all about
weird.
Linguistics is the one thing, and that it is key. It's like what words are and what words mean. So the word fascism. So literally everything right now, what I'm saying that the left is doing, they're calling everybody a fascist. Elon Musk is a fascist. Trump is a fascist. This person's a fascist. But everything they're doing is this straight out of the fascism playbook. It's like basically everything. It's like you have to. So my problem. So I used to consider the left the better alternative. And don't get me started on the right, because I'm no fan of the right very much either. I mean, right now we have they just seem a little less crazy than the left at this point. But so the fascism thing. So it's like you have to think like we do on every single topic, or you're going to be outcast, or we're going to do violence against you. You are instantly the enemy. It's basically what you just said. I'm just saying it a little bit different. But just before I forget about linguistics, so that was super key during the past 5 years during COVID, because the way they talked about things and keywords. Okay, like one is vaccine. Okay, the word vaccine, for me and you, we remember a vaccine. You take a shot, you don't get that thing ever. Like, that's it. That's what a vaccine was. But they changed the definition. Also, they're very tricky with wordplay, and they do it on the news, especially, the legacy style media. And you got to watch even new media. You always got to watch wordplay. It's all about, and George Carlin was onto this, and that's why I'm a huge fan of him. But another one was the died from or died of. So they would be like, you died of COVID, you died with COVID, you died from COVID. Like, what was it? But they were very tricky. It was a play on words. And most people don't have time to mess around. They just, they turn on the news. It's not even news anymore. Most people don't even watch TV unless they're watching Netflix. It's on their phone. They go to Google News and see what the headlines are. And all those headlines are going to be pumped out by these companies that want to, they make all their money on ads and clicking. So the more outrageous the headline, and it's going to be about the exaggeration. While we're on this topic, is also a huge part of it, like the over exaggerating. And they do it with everything. And it's intentional, because that's what gets more views. That's what gets more clicks. And if you don't have these over exaggeration of every single thing, no matter what it is, your stuff, people aren't going to click on your article. And that was a huge part of the past 5 years. What do you think?
Well, in the past 2 decades, and that's just about enough time it takes to change a society, we have seen an entire generation, like you go through kindergarten, graduate high school now, this time span, that were robbed childhood activity, hobbies, and have been left social media, iPads, the phone, and what it's turned into is a very opinionated, bratty, self-righteous, open journal in a way where you get to fight with people. And I remember jumping to Facebook off of MySpace. Right, this is about the time we met when we started gigging together. I was still on MySpace, but now we're transitioning to Facebook. And I remember, the little changes. Remember, we didn't have music on it at first. We didn't have band pages at first. And as that came in, and we were tagging each other, helping facial recognition programs for the FBI or whoever utilized it. Yeah, I'm guilty of it too. It's cool. We all did it. We saw this takeover of everything being stripped away, and even pop culture-esque. And everything shoved in our face was an emotional manipulation, politically based. We talk about personality disorders, like the narcissist is a fun, popular one. I think we have created a society of narcissists. And when you see how some of them are behaving, it's very narcissistical. We're basically yelling at you about what we are doing. It's like being in a fucked up relationship. We lost the grip on everything. And as the tail end of Generation X, I think we're the best age area to be in the middle of all this watching, because, we saw the steps we went through of it all. I, I just, I can't believe, like, I can't believe society got this bad that they're running with it.
Oh, they're doubling down on it. They're not just running with it. They're still, like, even with everything that's happened, even with all the support that they're losing. Here's something that I've realized, and it actually, it goes with relationships too, just humans in general, is that people, when they overreact, they will almost never admit that they overreacted, because that's almost like, because you're admitting, it's almost like, I guess you feel foolish if you admit that you overreacted. That's definitely something I've learned from what went on the past year. Because, all the people that were freaking out, because I never said there was I never made out like there was no problem at all, or there was no virus. I tried to stay in the logical, part of things. But everybody was acting like it's this plague that's going to kill everybody. We're all going to die, so we all got to stay inside. We can't, get locked down, shut down your business. And I just knew that was crazy, because I was looking at the statistics that were coming out, and I was looking at the statistics unlike anyone else. I mean, there were other people doing it, and I said, the math doesn't add up. It is not serious enough for these kind of measures. It's a complete and utter overreaction, and it stayed that way all up until about 2023. About 2020, end of 2023, people had finally, luckily, America has a short attention span, so they had moved on. I guess they got bored. They're like, okay, we'll do something else now. But the overreaction thing, and that goes back to what I was telling you about the clicks. Like, all these news organizations, they have to exaggerate to get clicks, and they're still doing it. And here's the thing: it's on the right and the left. The right, if you go on X, formerly Twitter, the people on the right will exaggerate everything, just like the people on the left So you have two groups that are just exaggerating, making things bigger and crazier than they really are. Now, some things are valid, I would say, on both sides, but in general, they're just, so that's, it goes back to what you're talking about with the social media. The person who makes the craziest, exaggerated post will get the most attention. They'll get the most likes and the most comments, or people arguing with them. So it goes back to the narcissistic. I mean, there's a ton of different angles you could look at this, but that's what I've been focused on lately. It's definitely everybody exaggerates. And not to be a nihilist or say nothing matters at all, but you know what I mean?
No, but there's a level, how much are you really going to invest into something like, I remember years ago when I was younger, like, we'll say Occupy Wall Street days. I'd come home and I'd watch YouTube videos of, like, police brutality and people fighting with the cops. So what do you think I wanted to do after 20, 30 minutes of watching that? And, like, you get all wild up. You go out, cause trouble, like I was one who got a little more active than others, in that little fun protest era. But I fully invested myself. I learned later on that pulling out of it, and you stop watching shit for a little bit, you kind of forget about it. You just go about life, you start to realize you stop complaining about stuff. You're not really angry. You're not very irritable. You're not like eyeballing cops walking down the streets of New York City, like ready to fucking, jump at them and shit. And you end up living a little bit of a better life. I mean, yeah, there's fucked up shit in this country, and there's fucked up shit around the world, and it's probably going to go on like this forever. I don't think, run around spitting on cops is going to solve police brutality, though.
No, that's not going to.
Also, in the matter of, back to exaggerations, Jesus Christ, we pick and choose which one do we want to fabricate and exploit, while so many others don't get any mention. Nobody gives a shit. And it's all it's like an emotional manipulation. Plucking their guitar strings.
Mm-hmm. And this has been going on. All these problems, they try to act like our new problems, but everything that's going on has been going on for thousands of years. Humans have been doing the same stuff. If you go back and read, historical texts of, like, say, the Romans, the Greeks, whatever, even farther back, humans have had these same problems. Of course, they had a different language, less technology, but it's basically humans are doing the same thing. None of this is new. Humans, this is the way humans behave. I've always said this. You could take human beings, right? You could give them the most perfect system, because that's what we're always complaining. People are always fighting about the system. Okay, you could give humans the most flawless system, like absolutely perfect, where everybody wins. There are no losers. There's no more violence. Everything, like whatever that system is, you could give it to humans. Say, look, like let's say aliens come down, right? They give you this system. I promise, within 2 weeks, humans they'll screw everything up. It'll be a disaster, because that's just how humans are. They're messy. They're very messy, and it's gotten better. Don't get me wrong. I'm not being complete pessimist here. Like right now, we live in the most peaceful time. Like if you look back to the time of the Mongols, from then up until now, even with all the violence that's going on in the world, this is one of the most peaceful times ever on this planet, which is a miracle, in my opinion. And then as far as like the whole Western experiment, I cannot believe it's actually went on for as long as it has, which is a miracle.
I'm glad you say that, because one thing that's worth mentioning and blowing the whistle on, that, for those, if you missed it, I'm a fucking mailman. I work in Soho in Manhattan, and I'm out in the streets every day. I mean, that's what I do for a living, aside of running around as a New Yorker. And regardless of your opinions on politics, we'll say, and what team you want to play on, one thing that I think is pretty cool that's actually taken place, at least in my walks through the day and through the week, is that there really is a form of kind of unity, in a sense, and people that are just fed up with being cram-fed all this fucking negativity and being told how we're supposed to be. Oh, everything's so fucking racist. And we're all standing around a big group of mixed nuts, like the fucking United Nations, hanging out, talking. We're like, fuck that. Like, that ain't us. We're all Bill. And one conversation that's been coming up lately is, stop labeling everything so goddamn much. Like, we're simply fucking New Yorkers. We're Americans, and like, don't worry about anything else. The constant use of labels to try to end something like racism has done nothing but amplify it. And it's ass backwards, and it's counterproductive. And anyone who calls himself progressive these days sounds like a fucking retard.
Here's my take on that. So I think a lot of them, their heart is in the right place, but here's the problem. They're trying so hard not to be racist, they end up becoming racist. And it's not just racism, it goes with other stuff too. They're trying so hard to be whatever that is, they end up being the exact same thing that they claim that they hate. It's the weirdest thing. It's a total weird psychology to watch. And here's something, I just wrote this down while you were talking. So, politically correct. I thought our generation got rid of that, which we did that politically correct, not the show with Bill Maher, but actual, PC. So that started becoming a thing. I guess it was in the late 90s into the 2000s, but by somewhere during the Bush years, I thought we'd got rid of that. Like we said, okay, we're not going to go along with this PC crap. And then for a while, that was not a thing anymore. We weren't doing. I mean, I'm sure there's still some people that were, calling for it, But I thought we had eliminated politically correct, but then it came back. That's the thing. It simmered. It went back. And then it simmered around and it came back under a new name. So, and that, because that's all it really is. It goes back to the linguistics thing I was talking about. All they did is rename it. It's the same thing, politically correct. Because, see, politically correct got a bad stigma attached to it because people made fun of it. And it eventually, you didn't want to be politically correct because it got like a bad, it just had a negative sound to it. So, but what it came back under a different name, which was, we call it woke. Everybody calls it woke, but it's the same thing. It's being politically correct. That's all it is. They just changed the name. They gave it a remodel. And the identity politics, that's what you were talking about a minute ago. That is not going to work. I think it got to a certain point, like you said, people just had enough with the identity politics.
Yeah,
because
not for nothing.
It's not gonna work.
To our election we just had, I have always grown up leaning left and would look for a good Democratic candidate, and when presented with Kamala Harris, and the slogan was, she's a female person of color, and it's like, and what, what has she done other than lock a bunch of people up in California and let them rot?
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I've ever really learned about her. And what it ended up was that there ain't shit. Therefore, I don't think you're a good candidate. Now, to tell me I'm racist or sexist because of my decision is fucking batshit crazy. Like, what was my options? Number one, and if you wanted me to not vote for Trump, basically, that was the best you could do. Like, that's a joke. That's an insult. And I think we saw a lot of people react in the same way. Like, it's a load of shit. It's a show, and they're playing fucking identity politic, race card pulling bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Now, go ahead, I'll let you finish your thought.
I was just going to say, so for all those crazy broads that I see online that are like, I'm not going to have sex for 4 years, like, I don't think anybody wants to fuck somebody who thinks like you anyway, so. Us men, we do learn too,
I wanted
once in a while.
So, New York, right? So when did you grow up in New York, or did you just grow up going back and forth to New York?
So I was born on Staten Island, 1983, baby. I moved out to Long Island as a child. I went to school out there for a little bit. I moved to Pennsylvania, like in middle school. I graduated high school there. I moved back to New York at 21 in 2005. I've been here since. Yeah, I think I just hit my 20-year marker on my return. So, though I've lived in New York City for 30 out of 41 years of my life, I did go to school, my teenage years in Pennsylvania. That's where I grew up, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
It was all right. It was all New Yorkers over there.
Right. A lot of people lived it.
All we did was argue about what part of New York you were from.
Mm-hmm.
And Staten Island got no love out there either. Nor did
I know a lot of people that would live either right on the outskirts of Jersey, or because a lot of people don't know this. You can, when you leave New York, if you're going west, you can drive through New Jersey, and it doesn't take long, and you're right out in PA. And a lot of people will live there because PA has a lot better. I think there's state taxes and everything else. I never had any problems when I was living in PA. So a lot of people will live in PA and just commute to work in New York, and they'll just make that drive through New Jersey. It's a little bit of an annoying drive, but it's worth it because it's cheaper, of course, to live in PA than to live in New York. And it's better than New Jersey. No offense, New Jersey, but you got your mountains. It's right where the mountains start, Poconos Mountains and stuff.
When I worked in Harlem, I had two coworkers that would go back and forth. They did have, I guess, family and friends in New York, so they didn't have to do it every day of the week. so they can stay in New York a few nights. And one of the guys I know from Pennsylvania that's also a musician, he's a drummer. He's a fucking New York City plumber. He goes back and forth on the bus every day.
Mhm.
Motherfucker makes good money and lives over there, and he's doing all right. It's not a bad move. A lot of people do it. A lot
Yeah,
of commuting.
that's the way to do it. That commute, that can wear on you over the years if you do it every year.
Even
I was going to ask you,
sucks.
what is your commute? Oh, from Staten Island. Which
That
bridge you got to go over?
back and forth every day. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not horrible, but doing it 5-6 days a week and just not stop.
Mhm. What do you do? You come up the BQE and then go over one of those bridges.
You can't
Which
go
way
that
do you
way.
take?
I take the bus to the ferry to the subway.
Ferry.
Normally.
There you go.
Yeah, I take the
Yeah.
Staten Island ferry.
So you went up on what? The south, what's it called? Southport? South
Well, they call it South Ferry on the Manhattan side.
South Ferry, yeah.
Ports up the street. Oh, God,
Yeah.
what a fucking nightmare it is down there these days.
Yeah, I bet. I used to work, there's a venue they opened up it was 10 South, right near the ferry, the South Ferry, like in the financial district. I used to work at a venue down there a lot.
I remember the Pussycat Lounge on Rector Street.
I do too.
They still have the
People
gold
have no
door.
idea what that place used to be like.
I caught the tail end of it, but I enjoyed it. Not gonna lie, it's a cool spot.
Mm-hmm. There was one show, it was Endangered Feces played, right? So they would throw toilet paper. That was their whole thing. They had a guy who would take toilet paper and throw it at the audience. They would throw it back. There's just toilet paper everywhere. But that show, they wouldn't allow it. I don't know if there was candles or for some reason they wouldn't allow it. So what they did is that Hugo came in and set up and made grilled cheese sandwiches. So he was making grilled cheese sandwiches and throwing them at the crowd while they were playing. That was the thing. I'll never forget that.
I would have went with the toilet paper. Easier cleanup.
Right.
Yeah, fucking grilled cheese.
I guess
all
the
over
venue wouldn't let it. And I remember, so I'm there. I think this is the same show because Ray Grady's played. So there's this balcony. There was a second floor, like little drinking area, and I'm standing underneath it on the first floor. But I'm standing right underneath where the balcony was, where people would be up there with and they had pint glasses, like actual those heavy 16-ounce pint glasses. And I don't know if somebody kicked one or dropped one, but one landed right on my head. I thought somebody threw one across the room, but it landed on my head. I had a gash in my head. I had to go to the bathroom, but try to stop bleeding. But it was like, just imagine, you're standing on the grounds, and I don't know if somebody kicked one or dropped one on purpose. I don't know.
You didn't sue the venue?
Huh?
You didn't sue the venue?
In retrospect, that would probably been a better idea. But you know what? They probably have a big sign. It's like, drink at your own risk at that place.
Did you have to get spit in your head?
No, it wasn't that bad. I probably should have, but I didn't. I just dealt with it. So I left so I used to see you a lot at the auto shows. So you would come down, and at that time, so you and I would still smoke cigarettes because a lot of people had quit. So we would always end up hanging out outside smoking cigarettes, meeting all the wackos walking down the street, all the crazy people. But I left in 2020, March 2020 is when I left New York. But you stuck it out. But of course, you're more tied in there. I was lucky that I had alternatives. But I just really, when they started talking about shutting down the roads, because it was March 2020, and they started, de Blasio, he started talking about shutting down, the bridges and the roads. I'm like, I'm getting the hell out of here. These people have lost their mind.
You mean?
And that's when I took off to North Carolina, and I was just going to wait 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Oh yeah, the French fries.
These French fries.
And a cheeseburger or a burger or whatever.
And obviously what's today? Today's March 19th. We just passed the 5-year anniversary just a few days ago. And I remember sitting in my mail truck on the corner of fucking West 4th and Mercer, where I was getting ready to deliver to a building where my boys work. Yo, what up, Willie? What up, Johnny? I remember it was all fucking, all the dominoes were falling at the same time. I follow Code Orange, and they had just released a new album and were set to start a tour on March 14th. And the first tour date, I believe in Pittsburgh, they're from Pittsburgh, was canceled. And at the same time, they started coming on, and, you know, I'm on like Instagram, whatever, that New York is starting to close down, lock down, shut it all down. And what a devastating, like, what the fuck is going on moment. I had already had COVID. I didn't even realize it was COVID that I had. I had it in January of 2020. A bunch of us got it.
Same.
From the New Year's Eve show, Murphy's Law New Year's Eve show, 19 into 20, a bunch of us got sick after. Nobody knew what it was. Nobody was finger pointing. We all just thought we had the fucking flu. But back to, you know, sitting in my truck, and at this point, I think I had maybe 2 days of, like, I had my bandana around my face I needed to cover. Things were quiet. I never thought I'd live to see something like this. And I'm one to admit, not knowing, I was intimidated. I was, you know, I was very curious and worried at the same time. And, you know, I think I tried my best to handle it like a normal person. My family lost my uncle in April of 2020 from out in Long Island. Very weird recording of his death. Cardiac arrest was involved, and he had COVID at the time, and it was weird. My family was never happy with the aftermath of that. But, you know, figure like March and April, you know, I was like, what the fuck? I'm this is scary. New York City was a ghost town. You can hear a pin drop. There was a day I stood in Broadway and Bleecker Street by myself. There was nobody to see, nobody to hear. I mean, I'm sure there were people in their apartments in the buildings, but, you know, it was just nothing. Looking up and down Broadway. And that lasted until about May of 2020, when the George Floyd protests broke out. And I was like, well, we're running around. I mean, I've been outside the whole time. And that's when I started to kind of question what exactly is going on here. And then I started to see what's okay. That's not okay. This is okay. That's not okay. You can sit down and take it off, but when you have to put it on. You know, you could go inside, but only if inside is outside, and a separate property in a sense. Yeah. This established building with an air ventilation system, we don't want you in, but we're going to put you in this shed we built with plexiglass.
With no ventilation.
You can't breathe it. And it turns out that was a big mistake. And, you know, from that point on, Jesus Christ, what a shit show. What a shit show.
Yep.
And we lived through it. And,
so I remember it was March 11th. That was the last night I had fun in New York City, because it was a show. It was, I think it was the Bowery Ballroom, and I think the Explosion played, or maybe it was the Loved Ones. I think it was the Explosion. No, it was the Explosion played, and they were opening up for, actually, I don't think they were opening up for anybody. I think that was their own show that day. They were headlining their own concert, if I remember correctly. But that was I had a good time, but that was when everybody was getting, you know, some people were making jokes about it. And then, so then they would ask me, so what do you think? I was like, I think they're exaggerating this. I said, there's probably, you know, there's a real like flu type thing going around, but I think they're blowing this way out of proportion. But then of course, no, see, that's not going to work. Most people and other people, no, I think this is going to be bad. I was like, well, that's fine, but I'm just telling you, I just know how they have a track record. All of these. That's how they did the Iraq War. That's how they got away with so many other things, is by exaggerating. I said, I think they're doing the same thing with this one. And there's going to be people that are going to manipulate and take advantage of this. And they did. Oh, they all did it. They milked that cow till they could not milk it anymore. That COVID cow is what I call it. They milked it. The pharmaceutical companies milked it. The news companies milked it. They to every last little drop, every tiny last little drop. Not even a molecule left of milk. They got it all. They milked that, and they're still trying to every now and then. But as far as the COVID thing, they milked it for all they could. So I hope they're happy, and I hope they enjoy whatever money they made, because they sure ruined a lot of stuff for a lot of people.
It sure did, and it's a shame because I will say I could admit that there's a part of me that is sad and that is upset of why I basically kind of walked away from something that I once loved so much. And I felt, as lame as this may sound, like I felt like I did have a safe space in life. And I thought there were a lot of us were on the same page. And I always have grown up in the idea, not just even as punk rock, but as a good person, as somebody that's not a fucking tool, that we think for ourselves, we're allowed to disagree at times, and, we find what's legitimately right and makes fucking sense, and we go by logical fucking thought process, and everyone's put their feelings in the way, and it seems, brainwash is real. It's a hell of a fucking drug, and it's a shame that I don't experience it, and I don't understand why sometimes. But it turns out that, like, we're not also so the same, and we're not cut from the same cloth. And, me personally, maybe I've been a little bit more of a degenerate growing up in life. Maybe I've been a little bit more of a criminal in life. It's the truth. I'm not a horrible murderer, but, whatever. I've had my run-ins. But to see 5 years later that these people that claim to be like these like free-spirited, free-thinking fucking individuals still can't even say, all right, I'll admit I was scared, I was worried, maybe I got swayed into something, but now I realize that was wrong. And I realize it was a fucking propaganda push. Yes, there was a virus, but it was it was handled very wrongly. I'm a fucking Jeopardy Wheel of Fortune fan, and I like to watch it when I come home from work sometimes. You know how many fucking times I saw this Dr. Dave fucking on TV, every goddamn commercial break, fucking spewing that shit on my Spotify commercials, every fucking place you go. Tell me that's not a propaganda stunt. Never in my life. We've all had the fucking flu, we've had strep throat, we've had fucking walking pneumonia, we've had chicken pox, you know what I mean? We've never gone to these fucking lengths over something. And yes, maybe this one was a little bit more serious and it had a more lethal and tragic result, and I would never wish that to anyone, and I'm sorry to anybody who lost friends and family, of course, I did too. But then you come to realize, one, it ain't a natural fucking thing. It's a fucking doctored science lab fucking virus. Two, it's Frankenvirus. Fucking information. The fucking military is direct soldiers or whatever military personnel to release even flu viruses in airports. Why wouldn't they do it with this? And just, you think they didn't have the vaccine in a warehouse ready to go? And you think they really fucking made it in fucking 9 months? The fuck out of here. And then you find out, like, the same guy who's fucking the ringleader of it, he's the same guy from the 80s that was killing all the fucking gays with the start of the HIV and AIDS pandemic with a drug they were pushing back then. I tell people all the time, go watch Dallas Buyers Club, okay? They're working around fucking Tony Baloney and his fucking bullshit medicine that was destroying livers. They fucking lied to you. They don't want to release information. They don't want to fucking tell you of all the people that have fallen and the side effects of the vaccines. I know people that have experienced them. I'm not saying it's a lot.
Oh, me too.
But I know a handful. And we'll say it's reproductive related. But Jesus Christ, get your head out of your ass, people. And especially to the people who know me personally, yeah, I'm fucking talking to you.
Speaking of knowing people personally, so we were talking about March 2020. So I immediately started, you know me, I always run my mouth. That's what I do. So, and sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. But I was, of course, immediately, I was like, I think this is crazy. These lockdowns are crazy. It's a terrible idea. It's going to cause more harm than any good. And people instantly, oh man, they turned. And this whole past 5 years, I found out who my friends really are, the people who I call friends. Because I'm telling you, these people who I've known for years, a lot of them I've known for years and years, they turned on me like that. Snap of a finger. They will turn. I was like, okay, I see how this is going to be. So everyone showed their true colors, like who they really are deep down. And it just showed how quickly, man, people will turn on you in a second if you go against anything. So luckily during the lockdowns, well, not luckily, but I had already lost like a ton of friends just because I was, completely against the lockdowns, and they didn't like that. So by the time the shots came around, the mandatory shots, I didn't have that many more people I didn't have that many more friends left to lose by that point. Only a couple. Because I told them at the time, because I had actually looked this up in 2016, I got a really bad flu when I came back from Alaska. And I was like, why is it the year 2016 and we don't have some sort of vaccine against the flu or cold? And I did a deep dive on it. And it turns out the rhinoviruses and the coronaviruses, they mutate too fast for a vaccine to ever be truly effective. That's just the nature of it. So I knew this going into 2020 when this was happening. I already knew this. I was like, there's no way. Or in the 2021 when they came out with the shots. See, here's what I was hoping. I was hoping, okay, these shots are going to come along, and the people who are scared, they're going to get the shots, and then they'll feel safe, and we can forget about all this. Because I could have let all this go. I could have let the masks go. I could have let the lockdowns go. Because humans are going to be stupid. Humans are going to do dumb things. I accept that. I'm stuck on this planet with them. So humans are always going to do dumb stuff. That's inevitable. But once I was told, see, here's what happened in 2021. I was working in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I had got an apartment right next to the airport because my plan was I was going to fly back to New York. I was going to just live in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where it's cheap. I was going to, and then work in New York because it was super cheap flights. It's like $89, $99 for a flight. I don't even know if that was round trip, but it was super cheap going back and forth from New York to Myrtle Beach. They had one-way flights because so many people, I guess, go down there for a vacation. So I was going to do that. I already had a guest room rented, or not rented, but set up to rent. I had work booked with my same job I used to have in New York. And then also I had my plane tickets bought. So I was ready. I had everything was set. I was like, man, my plan is working out. But that's when they started the shot mandates. And I was like, all right, that's it. I'm done. I will never. So honestly, I have no intention. I'm not going to never say never, but I honestly have no intention of ever returning to New York ever. I don't want to give any business any amount of money that went along with the card thing where you had to show your card. I don't care how long ago. It can be 20 years from now. I never want to give any money if it's the same business. I don't want to give, and the city itself, like I loved living in New York. That I really did. I was enjoying. I just made it. I had just got my own apartment there, which is the sign that you made it in New York when you have your own studio apartment. And that was in August of 2019. So it's like worst possible timing. I barely got to enjoy that apartment for like 6 months. So anyway, so at that point, that's when I was like, all right, I'm done with New York. I got to come up with something else. But actually, which is the irony of everything, is I'm now doing better than I was doing in New York but it was a huge pain. But like I said, I could have let all the other stuff go. But once they started the mandates for the shots, I was like, that's it. There was no, I'm not letting that one go. And there's a lot of people I'll probably never talk to for the rest of my life, just because I know who they are and I know what side they were on during that time. So if any other crazy stuff came along, I know exactly how they would react. And some quote unquote libertarians are the same way. Like they claim to be libertarians, but that their libertarianism went right out that door the second they got scared. The second they were faced with a little bit of adversity and fear, where did your libertarianism go? Woo, gone. Bye-bye.
First off, I completely understand why you don't want to come back to New York. I don't blame you. And as far as when the vaccines hit the airwaves and started, it still boggles my mind the thought process of one who gets the vaccine but still yells at you that they have to get the vaccine. What do you have to worry about if your vaccine is so trustworthy and is going to work? You should, once you get it, you should shut the fuck up, I would assume. And it wasn't good enough. Well, now you have to do what I did. And that goes back to the getting exiled. You could have stayed in the crew if you called the
sure. I could have easily.
A checklist,
I could have even gotten the fake card. I could have done that, but I wouldn't go that route.
They're worse than the fucking NASCARs with all the logos on them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
But I know a lot of people. I know a lot of people that they just took it because they didn't want to. They didn't want to take it, but they knew. But here's the thing: a lot of people have mortgages. They have families. They're in situations they had to either use. And I guess they didn't want to risk doing a fake card, so they just ended up taking it. A lot of them chose the one shot, the Johnson & Johnson.
Well, I hate that happened to people because I know a lot of people that did get it against their will because of those reasons, and that sucks. Luckily, they just started talking about it at USPS. And then they pulled back on the mandates as they were negotiating and arguing it. The union was not having it. We never got mandated. And it was funny, too, because so many people said, like, oh, you're a federal essential worker. You must have got it first. And I'm like, no. But what do you think? They, came to the post office with the syringes? Like, well, what do you think really goes on around here? Nobody cares about us. It's like everything else. Essential worker. What a joke that was too. My bank
that was another
never
one. Yeah.
Essential.
Mm-hmm.
The
people like you who had to go out regardless, and then there were people who they said were not essential. It was all completely messed up. Like somebody works at a grocery store, they're considered essential. So, and then you got the office person who gets to stay home and collect the check, while the person who works at the grocery store has to actually go in. It was, man, the craziest. Here's the thing, Larry. I thought we would maybe see something like that when, say, 20 years from now, like when, say, we're, a lot older. And I was hoping, honestly, I wish they had waited. But here's the thing. If they had waited, I think they played their hand too soon. If they had waited 20 to 30 years, a lot of us might not still be around. And I think, the newer generation would just go along with it.
I agree with you.
But there were too many of us. There were too many of us who still have a memory of what life is like to be free, or at least as free as you can be in this country. And we were not going to be living under like some kind of, how would you phrase it? Dystopian medical dictatorship, to where you have to show a card to do anything. Because do not be fooled. There are still a lot of people out there. They would love to have these lockdowns come back like in a second. They would love it. They would love to be sitting on that couch collecting a check because they get to be a hero by doing absolutely nothing.
Well,
So don't underestimate them, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I'll say this. There's a part of me that said, yes, shut it all down, lock it all down. Not for the same agenda, though, more in a fuck you elitist mentality. Like, we're not going to go work in the grocery store. We're not going to go deliver your mail. We're not going to drive the subways and the buses. Because, you got to keep in mind, we're essential now, but we've always been like the peasants otherwise.
Oh, right.
Get the peasants to keep performing for us. Get the clowns out there to keep the rodeo going.
Mm-hmm.
So in that idea, I'm cool with the lockdown, but for the reasons that it actually happened and all that, then no, because now you're just fucking with people.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same context. And, that's another thing this fucking world needs to start understanding fucking context.
Mm-hmm. They don't like that very much.
Mm. I don't want to stay out of too long, but I do want to say one more thing because why the fuck not? The last thing I posted on Facebook before I deleted mine and got rid of that fucking garbage was a stupid fucking picture of a certificate of the unvaccinated. It's still on my Instagram, on my personal account. And, I have no problem posting shit like that because that's where I stand. People don't like it too fucking bad. But sure enough, I had one comment that really just got under my skin. It's by somebody we both know. And it was, do you really gotta do that? Like, he's still talking about that? And I'm like, yeah. You know why? Because now you don't want to talk about it. When you were
Right.
barking what everyone needs to do, you had so much to say. But now that everything's crumbled and everything's being revealed, and of course, it depends on what your opinion is, what you want to believe. But if you're paying attention and you're leaning that way and you're seeing it, you're kind of like thumbs and eyeballs. Thumbs and fucking eyeballs. Because it's like, I don't know, maybe I became too aware and knowledgeable and just like keen, but I'm just, how can you be so naive?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I'm going to say it because I'm happy with my decision. And I'm happy that
Mm-hmm.
my son did not get it. And I'm happy that, we're gonna get through it and, we're gonna battle the next one too, probably. I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
it's coming.
Now, to bring it back to music, there's so many bands that I just can't even listen to anymore. There's like, I have like a few list of bands like there's several, but okay, what do we have now? We can listen to Megadeth, we can listen to Danzig or the Misfits, we can listen to, there's a few out there, but there's not a lot. It's not a huge long list. There's a few. There's just so many. That's why I didn't play music for like up until just this year. I just started playing music again. I just didn't feel. I was not feeling it. And if you know anything about music, you can't force it. If you try to force it, you shouldn't even do it.
Absolutely.
I just did not even feel like it.
Past few years and since, Going Postal's demise in 2022, I have had a few spurs of writing enthusiasm. And it's a goddamn shame. Because now, in my early 40s, I feel as if I've become better, tighter, more just like knowledgeable and wise to songwriting and what I want to produce. I have no urge to go out there and do it anymore because I'm just like, well, who am I doing it for? What am I going to do with it? Can I go play a gig? Like, do I really want to go over there? I certainly don't want to network anymore. All that bullshit. I don't want to be the showgoer anymore. Booking the booker man. It turned me off in so many ways. Here, I got a story for you. So I went to Whores last night, but prior to that, the last concert gig I went to was in December, a little before Christmas. I went down to Philadelphia with Andrew for Urban Waste and MDC, Millions of Dead Cops, Multi-Death Corporation, whatever you call them.
Mm-hmm.
With a band called Soji on the bill. That, pretty good grungy hardcore punk band. I was into checking them out since I was there. Now, I don't go to shows a lot these days. It's very rare that I'm like, fuck yeah, pick me up. I'll take a ride to Philly with you because Andrew was leaving from Brooklyn. I had to come to Staten Island anyway. Forget they were doing a thing, hanging out, bippity bopping. I recorded Urban Waste set for them. MDC is on. So, last band of the night, there's one guy we see. He's got to be roughly my age, maybe late 30s, early 40s. He's getting into it. He doesn't look like an MDC goer. He looks like a more like our New York hardcore kind of attired looking show goer, we'll say, And he's by himself, and he's dancing a little hard, and there's people dancing. There's a little minimal pit going on. We'll say like a dozen people. And there's a few young, very liberal-esque looking kids that are at the show. I think it was an all-ages show. It was at like a Ukrainian like assembly hall, like a reception hall looking spot. But they must have come into contact, and the little limp kids got very, very offended by the old head who was, was doing his thing. It was like the Sick of It All step down video-esque a little bit, But he wasn't that.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen way worse. We've seen way worse. Way worse. They had a shit fit. Now, homeboy was like, I don't know who the fuck you're talking to, and kind of toughened up a little bit and stepped to them. Why they're all scared. They like separate. They wave security over. They had homeboy removed. And when homeboy was removed, they did a little dance. And I was standing next to Andrew watching this, and I nudged him, and I looked at him, and I'm like, can you believe this shit? Like, I just want to intervene, but like, I don't want to get arrested for a fucking hate crime.
Right, yeah.
I shit you not, Earl, I got sick to my stomach, and I'm like, I don't want to be here. This sucks. Like, this whole fucking thing, it's dead. Like, we're sitting here watching a band called Millions of Dead Cops. It's something that basically promotes violence. Yes, I know they're a very leftist liberal band. I actually spoke with Dave for a minute for the first time after their set. Still, like, he was very nice. I was obviously polite.
Very nice guy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right back to him. Nothing against him or his band. But the crowd, like that's like so lame and just the opposite of what it was about and where it originates from. And I can't say it any other way than these little fucking dipshits, basically anything they walk into, they have to have everything catered to them. And it's like, homie, like the punk rock scene's very accepted. Like you should be happy enough with that. You're bringing it to like other extremes and you're making it fucking lame. And I'm sorry, but that's like some bubblegum punk fucking poser shit, if you ask me. And I don't ever really talk. Like I never really call anybody a poser, but I think now's the time. And ironically, one of my coffee, cigarettes, and depression posts that blew up, of all the posts that had to do that, it was one targeting the punk rock and the leftist, and you're kind of a bunch of like hypocrites post. And I got people inboxing me on that page, like talking smack to me, calling me a simp for billionaires and a bootlicker, and I'm like, if you only knew like who you're talking to, man, like number one, like I'm like the most fun person you'd probably ever meet in your life, and you'd probably love to hang out with me at a show. Like, if it was still fun days like that. And number two, like, I'm also, the guy that everyone calls a fucking lunatic. And, like, how do you know I'm not going to fucking bite you? Like, talking all that smack. Like, I'm not fucking Rick to life, motherfucker. I'm Larry Left.
Right. What I always say, I said, you look like the guy off Taxi Driver.
You talking to me?
At one point, I think you did. Did you have a mohawk at one point?
Yes, but recently I've got
you did a mohawk.
All right, I'm a bald Madonna now. I just shaved.
Now you're just doing
last week.
Sinead O'Connor. That's all.
Well,
here's the thing: you got a nice shaped head. I'm going to tell you something that a lady told me at a post office years ago. So I used to go, and there was one year that I don't know why, I decided to buzz all my hair up just like yours, and I was like. Because that's what I usually do. I just buzz it all off, let it grow, buzz it all off. I don't got to think about it that way. But I went in the post office right after I'd buzzed all my hair off. And the lady, because she knew me, because I was always going to their mailing CDs. I was mailing Ray Grady CDs that people would order and stuff. But she's like, you just buzzed off all your hair. I was like, yeah. She's like, That's okay. You got a nice shaped head. So you have a nice shaped head, Larry. It works.
I had to do the beard to balance because if I'm clean shaven and bald, I'm going to look like a fucking cancer patient. But it's just temporary. I want my hair to grow back. I'm very lucky at my age that my hair does fully grow back. So I want to enjoy it in case one day I can't. I'll probably have another talk shortly. But you know, sometimes I get mad at it because of all this shit, you know? But don't get me wrong. I'm the type of person that's like, I own this fucking hairdo, motherfucker. Like, you shouldn't have the mohawk. I get to have the fucking mohawk. But then there's times where you're like, fuck this fucking thing, you know? And that's what happened.
Okay, I got a question.
What?
So on your coffee, cigarettes, and depression videos, there's several videos where you're in, it's like a little bodega, and you're talking to the guy behind the counter. Who, and you don't got to name his name, and I don't want you to name the business, but is that somebody you already knew before you started doing these videos? Because those are great. I like those. Because you get him in on it, like whatever your shenanigans are.
Yes, I have pulled a lot of people into my shenanigans, and truth be told, my YouTube channel has always been the first one, but Instagram, this is my second one. I had taken it down and then decided to put it back up, so I lost everything, and there's more on YouTube than Instagram as far as original content and some stand-up comedy clips. But yes, all those people that you have heard and seen that were not me, they are people I interact with. They are friends of mine. They're people that I love, and they're good sports, and they're fun people, and they have a sense of humor, and a lot of you can fucking learn something from that. And also, they're not all white either. All right. There's various people and various backgrounds, and Coffee, Cigarettes, and Depression, it welcomes everyone who wants to have fun. If you want to be a fucking negative Nicky, fucking go somewhere else.
That was one of my favorite. I loved living in New York because you had everybody. There was every type of person. It was never boring because you had every type of person that could exist on the planet that you're going to encounter or work with. I enjoyed that. And there was one, Philadelphia was very similar. There were certain neighborhoods where it's just a mixture of everybody. And those were the most fun neighborhoods.
Yeah,
that's one thing I did. And I'll let me just finish one thing. Coming back down to North Carolina, like years ago, it would have the cliche stereotype of, the racist South. But here's something that I noticed, which I wasn't expecting. When I came back, the South is now less racist than the North. And here's what I mean by that. Maybe not the way people are thinking, but the way they act towards each other. The way people act in New, especially by the time I was leaving or left, say just in 2019, people would act and talk racist against each other more than they do down here. Down here, everybody gets along and talks nice. Now, regardless of what they're thinking, it can be, a black person hates a white person hates a black person, but they still don't act it out. They don't talk about it or act it out. What I was starting to see in New York, and well, it's always been that way in Philadelphia, is people would actually act it out and talk bad to each other in a racist way. That's what I noticed was different. And honestly, it wasn't when I left here. You would have a lot of more of the redneck dudes spouting off whatever that they wanted to spout off about you, but you don't get that anymore. It's a lot different. I was surprised to come back down south and be like, wow, this place is less racist than the North. At least, maybe not. Honestly, I'm starting to think maybe even the mentality is less racist than North.
Well, it's funny too because it's really quite a fucking anomaly of decision. It is, but it isn't, but it is up here.
Right.
You know what I mean? and it's because they're obsessing about it. And it goes back to something you said a little while ago that a lot of people are becoming what they hated or what they stood against. And they're becoming hate mongers.
Mm-hmm. Definitely pushing the hate for sure. What do you see? So you're in New York for the long haul. What do you think? So you got Adams, right? So Eric Adams, he was still pushing the shot mandates when he got in, but he's better than de Blasio. But that's not really saying anything, because de Blasio is basically the worst type of mayor you could ever have ever.
Blasio,
But what do you see? What do you see happening?
my take
What's your
on happening.
prediction?
Okay, so this is like fucking talking about professional wrestling. I love it. Eric Adams right now has proven, to me at least, I've seen, that he is a yes man. And he right now, it seems, is going to do whatever the Trump administration kind of pushes on him for them, because Trump will pardon him in whatever fucking bullshit he's wrapped up in, Eric Adams.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say the Biden administration had him wrapped around too, but Eric Adams is a puppet. So right now, with this whole like the ICE and I guess that's the only thing that's really come up, that people now want Eric Adams to get out of office, is because he's cooperated with the deportation agenda. He's gonna do it because Trump's going to get him out of trouble. And there's a part of me that can't help but laugh and say, how can nobody else see that? And there's part of me that says, like, good riddance. Because all these people voted him in while Biden was in office.
Mm-hmm.
It was him and that red hat guy. What's his name? Swiller. Curtis Swiller.
I'm not sure if I know him.
The red beret. The stupid.
Oh, that dude. Oh, the Angels guy?
And play vigilante police guys.
Oh, yeah. They want to be comic book characters. Those
What the
guys.
fuck are they called again? The Red Angels or something?
I think it's the Guardian Angels or Red Angels or something like that.
I don't pay them much mind. I think it's kind of weird.
Yeah, it gives them something to do.
But yeah, that was the last mayor election race. It was Adams and him, and Adams won. And they all voted him in. And it's funny because Soho had a bunch of signs around to like vote him out, and I've been ripping them all down. And now you're stuck with it. And in the immigration thing, not for nothing, something that I think needs to be spoken about, that I'm starting to see a weird kind of manipulation that was done to this country and the public. I'm all about people coming in. Obviously, the United States is a melting pot of backgrounds and ethnicities, and that's cool. But it's cool when they're United States citizens, that we all live here together. I'm cool with people coming in moderation, but, as far as the border jumping shit goes, like, let's be realistic. Any other country, like, if we did that, or anybody else did that, and they get caught, you're getting tossed the fuck out. I had a contract not to come back to Canada. I went to Canada in 2003 before I moved back to New York. And I went back and forth because of holidays, and I got caught up in customs at the airport, and they asked me about my criminal background, and I got a little nervous, and the one thing I thought of, I was like, hey, I got a DUI. And they're like, you're under 21. And I'm like, okay. They're like, you can't come in. And I'm like, what do you mean I can't come in? They're like, you can't come into Canada. And I'm like, I have stuff in Canada already. Like, I got, like, possessions in a vehicle, like up in Aurora, Canada. They're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I was here already. I flew back home for Christmas. Now I'm flying back because I got to get my stuff and eventually come back to the United States. And yeah, that's what I'm doing here. I think I was 20 years old. So, they're like, all right, you could go get your shit, but you have 48 hours to go up and get it and then leave. And they gave me a written contract that I had to sign. And like, very disappointed because I think my mother threw it out when I got home. But yeah, so just on like saying that I had a DUI, like they were like, you can't come in here. So,
oh yeah,
we're the only place that this is happening. And it's funny because we're like saying okay to it. Well, not we, but some people are. And it's funny, they're coming over here because they're viewing us as the land of opportunity. And the same people that are saying, yeah, let them in, are the same people that are bitching and moaning and complaining about this place. Make it make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
And as far as the criminal activity that's taken place, especially here in New York City, that is a realistic thing. We're going to have that. I think it should be domestic, and we have our own criminals to handle. We don't really need more than foreign ones. And, not for nothing. Some of them are really fucking dangerous. Sorry to all the ACAB people out there, but this is maybe a time where you kind of want police around because, they'll fucking kill you. And at those countries,
if you got to choose between the cartels or the cops, you have less. You're probably better off with a cop than a cartel.
Back my community. You know what I mean? If it came down to that,
right?
I got my neighbors. They got me.
Right.
Let me tell you.
Yeah, if you live in a tight knit neighborhood, you'll be good too. A lot of neighborhoods in South Philly are like that.
Live in the outer boroughs and the rest of whoever does Staten Island exist would call Trump country. And I lived in Trump country the whole time. And there was a time where we didn't get along so much. However, I love when people ask me about Staten Island. They're like, what goes on there? And I'm like, you really want to know? Yeah. Nothing. Quiet. It's peaceful. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some shit here and there like anywhere else, but it's obviously, it's not like Brooklyn or Queens or the city. It's definitely not like the Bronx. It's more like equal to your Yonkers level or Nassau County level. And the reality is, all I really fucking see around here is people walking their dogs. It's almost like a Truman Show. Anytime I go out of the house, there's always background extras walking their dogs. Everybody's polite and says good morning, and I appreciate that because I say good morning back to them. When I have my son with me, everybody's very nice to my son, which I will always say I appreciate. And the worst thing I can complain about is people drive like fucking assholes through my neighborhood.
Yeah, that's anywhere though.
There are a lot of city workers, cops, firemen, other mailmen, sanitation workers. That's the hood. That's the hood I live in, and it ain't bad. And people are like, oh, that's fucking racist. I'm like, why are you saying that? Like, it's all fucking white. And I'm like, well, it's all fucking Italian for the most part. And the reality of it is, these aren't all new fucking homeowners, if you want to get down to it. These are all fucking passed down inheritance houses. These people's parents and grandparents bought these houses. And back in the time when it was easy. And that's what's going on here. Nothing, you never see for sale signs, really. That don't happen around here. They've held it. And good for them.
A lot of places like that in Astoria, Queens as well. That's another one.
There's
some holdouts up there too.
Why is it a problem for my neighborhood, right? But nobody ever brings that up about Orthodox Jewish and Hasidic Jewish neighborhoods. They put them on lock. You know what I mean?
Like in Brooklyn? Right.
Yeah, we have Staten Island too. I'm sure there's other ones, it's whatever. I don't have a problem with them. Just saying, you have such a problem with westerly Staten Island, but so many other things happened. We'll say segregated in a sense, self-segregated.
Yeah, but every city's like that. You have so many. You got your Chinatown area. You got your here's a good example. You go into Queens, you can just go out, take the 7 train, and you go out. That Chinatown is bigger than the Chinatown in the city. If you go out towards, take the 7 train out towards Flushing,
yep.
Which I used to go there. They have these cool grocery stores, dude. Have you ever been in any of those grocery stores? They have some wild shit in those grocery stores.
No, if I was going,
I used to love going in and just walking around and just looking. You can buy live frogs and stuff.
See, I'd always
Crazy.
pass through there when I was on my way to like College Point, Whitestone, like, Scunt days, practice and
Mm-hmm.
such, and hanging out that way, bar 131, yada, yada. So I would go through it, try to find the crazy buses that are all over the fucking place of how to get to the rest of the fucking way. It's no man's land out there. They have their own fucking
Mm-hmm.
scene out there. It's so far. Well, they used to, at least. Um, but yeah, Flushing, 7 train, Main Street, every time. A little bit. Come on, you want happy ending? I'm always like, yeah, let me get the card. Maybe for later. Like, no, come now. Or go away. And where I
Those
work? I
grocery
work on Canal
stores were
Street.
wild.
I'm by Manhattan, Chinatown in the city. So,
Right. Yeah.
fucking Chinatown's all over the place.
Yeah.
So the conspiracy theorists believe there's more Chinatowns around a lot of new military underground areas, farmland.
No, they were buying up a lot of land, the Chinese, the communist CCP, Chinese Party. And even, okay, a good example, even a place like down here in North Carolina, you can go on the GIS map and you can look at the owners. And there's even places in this little county that I'm in down here in Western North Carolina. And a lot of it is what they like to do. They will buy landlocked land. So you have no access to this land, let's say 15 acres, 20 acres, but there's no road to get into it. And you would have to go through somebody else's property just to get to that land. So they buy up a lot of this land that nobody else wants. So, because when I was buying property down here, I noticed that. I'm like, okay, that's true. They are buying up a lot of land.
Yeah.
So, that is one that's
I can't remember
real.
exactly the details were, but I remember seeing something about a comparison of, there was a map layout of the country and it was showing these areas. It was all where missiles come out of the ground.
Mm-hmm.
The other one was all the Bill Gates owned land was also evaluated, and that was where all the no flood zones and stuff, and no natural disaster shit goes down areas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting future these kids have.
Yeah. So what is your favorite conspiracy? Is it JFK, 9/11? What's your favorite conspiracy out of all of them? Which one do you like, or which one tickles your fancy the most?
Fascinated with Kennedy assassination. Absolutely. I have an opinion on it myself. I have an opinion on information releasing and lack thereof. I'm a believer of JFK was like our last real American president, and firm opinionated they killed him, like they whacked him out, and there were multiple gunmen. Lee Harvey Oswald is a what do you call it, patsy?
Patsy. A Patsy. A Patsy.
He's just, it was just for the show. He's just the TV personality to look at. 9/11, interesting stuff there. I remember 9/11. I remember where I was, 9/11 upsets me, the idea
Yeah, it should.
of the attack of New York City. I don't believe some of the things that they put out there. You know what I really didn't like not around 9/11? That fucking movie they put out, United 91. I was not a fan.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
I kind of remember that one. Yeah.
I think that's the one that goes down in Pennsylvania, and the
Right.
people fighting back. And the one thing that always stuck out to me was when this one guy calls his mother from the plane to like say goodbye, like we're probably gonna die. But the way he like says hello, like to initiate the conversation, is like, "Hey mom, it's me, it's Mark Johnson." Like who the fuck talks like that to their mom?
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's just terrible acting or terrible script writing.
It's the same.
One of the
Like
two.
that's what took place in the event is like, to me, that's like the script that they're selling in the news. You know what I mean?
Right. I see what you're getting at. Yeah.
Like that plane was shot down. There was no passengers that were fighting inside the plane with terrorists. Like that. I
Oh,
don't know
no,
what was in the plane, but that's
they
not
blew
what it
that one
was.
out.
There was no phone call.
Yeah.
There was no bomb. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as the Pentagon on 9/11, well, that's been passed around video-wise for fucking 23 and change years. Come on, people. Does anybody see a plane hitting the Pentagon? Anybody? Anybody? Is it,
It looks like a missile to
like a
me.
missile?
If you watch it over enough.
Now, I don't know anything about missiles. I am not a weapons person. I'm not a gun enthusiast. But come on, even I could swim. I'm like, well, it certainly doesn't look like an airplane. And it only made, what, like 16-foot diameter hole?
Right. Yeah, look, very suspicious, if you ask me.
2 plus 2
So they just
penny,
released-
yellow.
They just released the it's like 80,000 documents, supposedly all unredacted for the JFK files. So right now, but here's the thing. Luckily, there are people out there who've been waiting basically a lifetime for these to be released. So they're going to spend, probably the next several months sifting through all these documents. So we'll wait and see what they uncover and find. Now, they did find Biden's name mentioned already at least once in the JFK files. I don't know if he was already a senator back then, but it said Senator Biden. And I might be way off on this, but what I saw, it was actually JFK called him a traitor. He said Senator Biden is a traitor. Now I don't know if what I'm seeing. I didn't look into it.
No,
that's what I'm trying to say. I don't know. He was in the Senate for a long time, but I don't know if it's a different Biden or not.
Possibility. I don't know. I just have to look into that, but.
Well, here we can do that. See, here's the beauty of modern technology.
I'm not looking shit up early.
I'm going to do this right now.
Why?
So we're going to look up just for the podcast. Okay, so
but
when did Biden become a senator? 1973. Okay, so it's a different Biden. See, that's why I always got to look up. That's how rumors get started, Larry. Okay, I got another question, okay? So I always ask on this. Okay, number one. So let's go back to, let's say you're 10 years old, right? So were you living, you're in PA at that time? Or were you in New York at that time? Long Island. Okay, so what were you doing, let's say for both? Like, what did you do for fun when you were a kid in Long Island? And what did you do for fun when you were a kid in PA? Like, what were you getting into? Sports, video games, skateboarding? What were you doing?
It was a
trouble?
Constant trouble. I was active. I'm not a big sports person, but I played some sports, soccer, baseball in my little league years and middle school a little bit. I got into music at a very young age. I got my first guitar actually at 10 for Christmas, an acoustic. I wasn't ever big into video games. Like I had, Nintendo, I had Sega, I had the first PlayStation, but not a whole lot of games. I didn't really spend that much time with it. It was more of a rainy day at home boredom remedy as to these days very, very involved. So, I did some games. Sonic the Hedgehog when I was a kid. Well, yeah, I got into music, and by the time I moved to the Poconos, I started 7th grade my first year. By the time I was in 8th grade, I went to my first show. I'm the child of a Woodstock hippie mother, so that kind of came in handy growing up as far as doing stuff music related and that. And also, I guess my mother just had no control over me and my brother. regardless, um, yeah, skateboarding at a young age. I got to skateboard in middle school and high school. I was actually decent. Um, I don't know if you've ever been to the Stumblers on Staten Island, but there was a time they had a half pipe in the backyard. Like they had a few parties, barbecues with bands playing and such. One of the first baby sandwiches shows was at a Stumbler barbecue. But yeah, so I got on that half pipe they had back there. Showed off a little bit from my youth. Some of my scars I live with are from skateboarding in my younger age, younger time. So yeah, that's what I really ran around doing. I sort of degenerate rather young. I was experimented before I graduated high school, we'll say.
Were you, when you were out in PA, were you out in the woods or were you in like a town?
I was in like a woodsy-esque gated community where I lived. Technically that would be Bushkill, Pennsylvania. And the town, city-esque area was like the East Stroudsburg area. A lot of the venues that I started going to revolved around those areas. So my first gig was in a town called Bangor. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but that's the stick. That's like when we started going down 611 to Philadelphia. Bangor is like one of the first places you go through from Stroudsburg. Yeah, that's like that's a whole different world. I'll just say that.
Oh yeah.
In a weird, like, this is how the cookie crumbled, where I ended up going in the Poconos is where everybody else from New York was going as well. So I was always surrounded by a lot of New York people. There wasn't a whole lot of kids I went to school with that were born in Pennsylvania. Very rare. But one thing I noticed, the side that I was on, like living in Bushkill, which also Marshall's Creek was right there, was all the New Yorkers. In the town of East Stroudsburg, where they had sidewalks and shit, was where you would find more people that were born in Pennsylvania that lived there their whole lives. But I guess, yeah, it made sense in some sense, because that's where they were building more houses because it was just forest, and then people started moving, so bippity bop. You got a bunch of New Yorkers living in the fucking woods.
So I want to ask you, and this is what I ask everybody that comes on the show, have you ever had a ghost experience, a UFO experience, or a Bigfoot experience? Any of those three?
Yes. My mom's side of the family has some crazy ghost-esque stories, based out from Long Island, from Bethpage. And very, very weird stuff. I have had very many just uncomfortable, premonition-like, we'll say, mailman working day. I walk into a building on Thompson Street, right down from Generation Records. And when I walked in, I got hit with this fucking, like, soul blast. And I had what's called a deja reve moment, not deja vu. Deja reve is, in my head, I'm 100% I have dreamt this already, and now it's playing out. And it's like, spot on. But in this particular experience, it was a very negative feeling, and it was almost like somebody was killed at this address, where there was like, there's a staircase to walk up to, like, where you'd call the first floor, I guess. It's not ground level, where the mailboxes are. Like, maybe somebody's buried under those steps. I didn't like going to that building for a while after that. I've had some weird encounters, electricity, lights going out, like, late night in the park in the witching hours of the night. So yeah, I believe in paranormal-esque spiritual activity. Can't say much about UFOs or aliens. I don't think I've ever seen anything like a UFO, say. And I don't know about Bigfoot. I like your videos about Bigfoot, but I don't really know about Bigfoot.
I didn't know if you'd spent much time out in the woods out there in PA. Apparently they see them out there, or people claim to have seen them out in PA. But I think it's mostly if you go west, if you start going western PA, once you get out into the Amish country, that's when you're way out in the sticks, less populated.
Little knowledge I have, if I was going to take a guess of where Bigfoot resided, I would say more like out by Montana, the Dakotas, and Yellowstone. And that's where I think Bigfoot would hang out. Just say it like that.
That's what I used to think too, but man, people see him or claim to see him all over the place, basically every state. But there's also crazy people in every state too, so there's that. So you can't always go by that.
I'd even say there's a possibility of Bigfoot being Canadian.
Oh, they see him up there too.
So, do you think he might
see him all up
around?
People claim they migrate.
I mean, you think there's more?
Best guess. Oh, there's more than one Bigfoot. There's like
the Bigfoot
herds
reproduce. So who's ever?
I think that. I don't even think it's that crazy. I don't even think it's that crazy. It's just, it's part of the human, pre-humans that there's some stragglers hanging on. There's still some stragglers out there, and they've learned if they steer clear of humans, they can survive. That's the best guess. Now, there's some people that claim they might be interdimensional or some shit, but who knows? You know what? At this point I'm at, Larry, nothing is off the table. You could come to me, somebody could come and say, yo, there's an alien outside. Like, he just landed his spaceship and he wants to talk to you. Oh, okay, cool. I'll go talk to him in a minute. I wouldn't even freak out. Wouldn't even. Oh, and he's got Bigfoot with him too. He's got Bigfoot, and there's a ghost too. But he's hanging out inside. He said he's not coming out. I'll be okay. Whatever. I'll be all right. I'll talk to him. That's how calm I am about it.
What's that? Give me a minute. You know what I mean?
That's where I'm at now.
I'll be right
Nothing's
back.
off the table. You could tell me the craziest thing and it'd be real, and I would not be surprised anymore.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing sometimes.
Yeah, it's probably a bad thing.
Let's just say, for instance, in some of the shit I see, sometimes I stop and think about it, like, after I respond to it, and I'm like, for instance, a comment somebody threw at me was like, oh my God, like, they arrested and deported a protester. And I'm like, the fuck they did, like, fucking idiot. And then a few minutes later, I'm like, I really hope they didn't do that. I hope that's bullshit. Like, we can't have that happen to our own citizens, that's for sure. Like,
no, that was another exaggeration.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, that's part of the reason why I'm just like, right. Deport this. So, it's easy to blow it off in an age of so much bullshit as well.
Right. But it seems like me and you, neither one of us, we will not submit loyalty to any political party. I know I never will. I will never be completely, have any sort of, if I have support or just kind of agree with any political party at any time, it's only temporary, because as soon as that people or ideology, as soon as they start trying to tell me how to live my life, deal's off. I'm out. And one more funny thing, tell me what you think of this. So I just thought of this the other day. Okay, it's 2006. George W. Bush is president, okay? And you are in an accident, and you go into a deep coma, and you just wake up today. You are going to be really, really confused at what's going on.
I mean, shit. That would be like, I think your brains would fall out of your fucking nose at that point. Like, that's a drastic difference. And it's funny because there was so much bullshit in 2006 to talk of, for what I remember of it, at least. But still, like, this day and age tops it.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's
So
it's
many
almost like we're
problems.
in a bizarro, a mirror bizarro world where everything is backwards and everything is flipped and inverted. It's like now the left supports war. Now it's like everything has flipped. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. I never thought I would see it, but then of course you wouldn't if everything flips. But it's almost like everything is completely backwards. Think about this. We have conservative people out here buying Teslas, electric cars. What is going on?
Well, so
And then the left hate the electric cars. Well, at least one brand of electric car. But you would think, okay, we'll let that one slide because at least that's something we were just buying, 3 years ago. It's the craziest thing to watch. It really is.
despite people's opinions and beliefs, one thing that is discussed is when we start to see this opposite day theme, we'll call it, the end is near. This is part of the exit for all of us. And yes, that is a religious-esque, backing thought to say, like it does stem from, some of those discussions, but whatever people want to believe, I don't care. Look at what's happening. Let's look, and there's been a lot of what I call switcheroonies.
Oh yeah, the old switcheroo.
Switcheroonies. And then it's pretty fucking consistent and frequent. And, yeah,
And it's only going to get worse.
I got a question for you. Why didn't anybody want to burn Teslas when they first hit the scene? Because if you ask me, I would never want a car that somebody else could control from a laptop. That's the ultimate, like, control over my lifestyle.
Oh yeah,
I said,
definitely.
watch those things. They fucking debuted. Like, get the fuck out of here with that shit. That's fucking Skynet-esque bullshit.
It is.
We're shaving the fuck out of my No, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, it's out of control if you want to get into that discussion, but whatever. But yeah, so now that they're burning Teslas because they just don't like Elon Musk and Donald Trump, it's like, why do if I wish you did that for a different sentiment.
That you know what that falls on? That's something I've been saying for a while. I don't always have a problem with what people are doing. It's either the reason why they're doing it or who they're doing it to.
Yes, the motives.
It's like, okay, if you want to behave like that, there's a lot of people out there that you could behave like that towards, and I would be all about it. So that's just my, everybody has their own personal biases. But listen, so we're almost at 2 hours here. Is there anything that you want to share with people before we wrap this up? Is there anything that you had on your mind that we maybe didn't talk about?
I mean, I think we've said enough. And, I guess the one thing I'll say is, before you hit the roof, if you don't like what we're saying, try to understand why we're saying it. And, not everything about
logic
having
doesn't
a fucking,
work.
Life isn't a temper tantrum. Shit happens. You're not always going to be happy. Get over it,
It's funny
that you desire.
This whole conversation it's basically what we did is we just took about one whole night of hanging out at Otto's when we were outside smoking cigarettes, and we wrapped it up into a little 2-hour chat. Because all we just did is just talk the same as we used to talk at, just reminds me of hanging outside Otto's. Except a little rowdier. We would get a little more rowdy, I think. A little louder, a little rowdier.
Yeah,
but that's to be expected, we were in the environment.
More energetic, more youthful, more drunk.
I think, you know what? It's probably that last one more than anything.
Yeah. But it was great to do this with you. And Maybe we'll do it again sometime. And,
Absolutely. Yeah. If you have anything new come up, let me know. If you come up with anything that you're trying to put out there. But yeah, I definitely encourage anybody to go check out Coffee, Cigarettes, and Depression. You can find them on Instagram and YouTube.
That's right, baby.
All right. Larry, thanks for coming on. And to everybody, we will see you on the next one. Goodbye.
I ain't searching for the promised land. I'm a walking contradiction, baby. Try to feed me and I bite your hand. Whoa, well alright, everybody's talking about an education. Whoa, well alright, don't need another day of mental prostitution. My reputation, like a drug's gonna bring me down. My reputation, like a drug's gonna bring me down. My reputation, like a drug's gonna bring me down. Down, down, down. My reputation, like a drug's gonna bring me down. Tonight we're bringing so down. Well, I'm searching for a new sensation, still dreaming of a suicide. Everybody's out to get me, till I see the fire in my eyes. Got my sights on self-destruction, but the crowd screaming, yeah, yeah, yeah. So we're back on our feet, losing sleep. We're gonna do it again. Whoa, well alright, I always overanalyze the situation. Whoa, well alright, the paranoid is nothing but an intuition. My reputation, like a drug's gonna bring me down. My reputation, like a drug's gonna bring me down. My reputation, like a drug's gonna bring me down. Down, down, down. My reputation, like a drug's gonna bring me down. So drug's gonna bring me down. My reputation, like a drug's gonna bring me down. My reputation, like a drug's gonna bring me down. Down, down, down. My reputation, like a drug's gonna bring me down. My reputation, like a drug's gonna bring me down. Oh, baby, I'm bringing my reputation, like a drug's gonna bring me down. Down, down, down. My reputation, like a drug's gonna bring me down. Down, down. My reputation, like a drug's gonna bring me down. My reputation, like a drug's gonna bring me down. My reputation, oh baby, I think you know something about my my reputation, like a drug's gonna all your baby, so disgusting. My reputation, pretty baby.